All right, so HDFC Bank numbers are out, and we can see that the net profit is up 11% or so at 18,641 crore. Also, the operating profit has also seen a spike. You can see NII is up 5% to 31,552 crore. And as I said, the bottom line seems better than the expectation at 18,651 crore. The gross NPA 2 has seen improvement at 1.24% versus 1.4% YOY, and net NPA as well has come down both in absolute terms as well as in terms of percentage, minus 7% QOQ if you talk about the absolute numbers, while net NPA has come at 0.42% versus 0.47% which was there in the last quarter. Now there is a catch as well. Provisions has come in at 3,500 crore and that is versus 2,700 crore YOY, which if you see on a YOY basis, this is of course up but down 76% QOQ. And the bank has also made a floating provision of around 9,000 crore. We need to see how much of the impact is there on the IPO which was there of the subsidiary into the numbers, and that is something which we'll discuss with our guest as well. Dnyanada Vaidya is joining with us. Welcome. My first question to you, do you think the bottom line is better than expected?
Hi, good afternoon. Yes, so results look good on an operational front also. Bottom line is definitely ahead of our estimates. NII is largely in line and the NIM compression is largely controlled. Yeah.
So you are saying NII is in line, but where do you think the spike in net profit coming from? Do you think there is an impact of subsidiary sale as well?
So yeah, there was a subsidiary HDB stake sale impact in Q1 because of which the overall other income was a little inflated. Barring that, it was about a 9,000 crore rupee impact, and that was utilized to make floating provisions of a similar amount in the previous quarter. Barring that, this quarter, the fee income growth has been pretty strong, though there has been a dent because of the treasury income. The overall the OPEX growth is largely contained, which has resulted in a healthy PPOP growth for the bank on a YOY basis. Of course, QOQ will not be comparable given the one-time impact of the stake sale. Yeah.
The other income has also come in at a decent pace at 14,350 crore versus 11,483 crore. If you compare YOY, it will be around 25% uptick. How do you see this number?
Yeah, so it's largely driven by a healthy about 9% growth in the fee income, core fee income. That's a positive as we see it. Also, the treasury income is much better than what was expected. So that's bumping up the non-interest income for the bank.
Right. Dnyanada, stay with us. We also have with us Aditya Shah to decode HDFC Bank numbers. Aditya, the bottom line looks better than expected, but what is your view on the other income as well?
So other income up and down is fairly okay. That is not core part of the business. What is really important is the asset quality. Asset quality is one of the most important things in a bank. Asset quality has improved for HDFC Bank from 1.36% of NPAs. We've come down to 1.24%. That is the first point. Second point is I need to look at the NIMs. I've not been able to look at the NIMs. Any improvement in the NIMs will be positive. We remember that HDFC Bank used to have 4% of NIMs, and after the merger, it has come down to about 3.3%. Now, any market is waiting for any improvement towards 3.4, 3.5% of improvement in NIMs is something that will be really positive for the bank. Net, a loan growth of about 10%, a deposit growth of about 15% is really very stable. Nothing on the upside, nothing on the downside per se. NIM is a number that we need a clarity on. Slowly and steadily, as the investor presentation will come in, we get clarity on what is the NIM.
Definitely, NIM number is keenly awaited, and that is something to watch out for as well. But as far as provisions are concerned, Aditya, 3,501 crore, do you think it is in line with the expectations?
Yes, the provision as well as the book is growing at about 10%. Mind you, HDFC Bank is a really very big bank. Of course, the provisions will increase a little bit. The asset quality, the gross NPA has improved a tad bit from 1.36 to about 1.24%, which is about 12 basis points of improvement in the gross NPA. So from my perspective, fairly decent, nothing to complain about or nothing to get excited about. The commentary towards the retail loans and the unsecured loans, where the massive chunk of NPA is coming about, will be something to watch on. Mind you, HDB Financial, which is a subsidiary of HDFC Bank, reported a deterioration in asset quality, but the bank has reported an improvement in asset quality. So that is something, the commentary that we need to watch out for. And finally, as I said, the NIM is the most important thing for HDFC Bank as of now. That deterioration has led to stock price stagnating. The commentary there and the loan growth next year, HDFC Bank has slowed down the loan growth. The commentary for loan growth next year is something to be watched out for.
Loan growth as well as NIM is something. Loan growth numbers were already disclosed, but NIM is something to be watched out for. But net interest income, Aditya, that is also stood at 31,552 crore. If you see YOY basis, this is 5% uptick, and many of the banks are struggling here as well. So how do you see these numbers?
For HDFC Bank, I'm not too much worried because this is voluntary slowdown of loan growth, about 8.5% or 8.5 to 9% of loan growth. That is specifically slowed down by HDFC as they try to bring down the LCR down and they try to control the NIM. So right now, as I said, the NII number would be very, very insignificant. The bank's growth engine is not at full scale, full capacity. That will come, let's say, early next year or somewhere in the second half of next year. So that is something that is not a key concern right now. The key concern, as I said, continues to remain the NIMs. Any improvement there would be a key parameter to watch out for.
Dnyanada, I want to come to you regarding the GNPA numbers. Even in absolute terms, if I can figure out, this is 34,289 crore versus 37,041 crore. And similarly, NNPA has also stood at 11,447 crore, and that is versus 12,276 crore. As Aditya was also mentioning, this is something which is very encouraging for the bank, right?
Yeah, so asset quality for HDFC has never really been a problem across cycles. If we've seen, the bank has been able to maintain very pristine asset quality. Yes, of course, there has been a little rise in GNPA in the first quarter, but that's more of a seasonal phenomena where agri slippages tend to be higher in the first and the third quarter. However, this is largely in line in what we expected from the bank in terms of asset quality improvement. Yeah.
Right, Dnyanada as well as Aditya, thank you so much for joining and decoding these numbers. We'll connect once again once we have that NIM figure as well. But for now, let's move on to decode